What's up everybody, my name's John, and if you're new here, this whole channel is all about making your next video better than your last. So today I wanted to share 6 tips that will help you accomplish that. Tip number 1 is planning your shots. Being able to create a cohesive story before even pressing record is what will take your video from good to great. In this time of pre-production, you could dedicate more time to really thinking about those visual elements that you want to incorporate into your video. Elements like framing, composition, lighting, and camera movement. By planning out your shots in advance, you're going to be able to create a more visually appealing and engaging video. Not to mention, it'll save you a lot of time and take a lot of the guesswork out of the actual shooting portion of that video. A great example of this would be shooting at the beach and trying to figure out how you could position yourself to really take advantage of that golden hour glow. On the other hand of that, if you're shooting in something like a city, then you can really think about what kind of perspectives you want to use to really capture that urban vibe. Or if you're shooting at a skate park, you can really utilize those different camera movements to fully immerse the viewer. And again, planning out these shots in advance is really going to take a lot of that guesswork out and save you some stress. And since we're on the topic of camera movements, tip number 2 is going to be incorporating movement into your shots. You don't need a giant cinema camera to capture good movement. As a matter of fact, one of the advantages of shooting with something small and portable like a mirrorless camera or even an iPhone is the mobility aspect of it. By utilizing different camera movements like pans, tilts, and even tracking your subject, these are all great ways to add personality, style, and flair to your video. And when you are using camera movements in your video, you want to try to make it as smooth and steady as possible, unless it's a stylistic choice, of course. But a majority of the time, with your footage being smooth and steady, your content is going to look a lot more professional, a lot more higher value, and you're going to be able to keep your audience engaged with your content. Tip number 3 is pay attention to your lighting. If it's possible, try avoiding shooting in harsh lighting conditions like in the middle of the day. By shooting in these harsher conditions, you're more prone to getting overexposed shots and having unflattering shadows on your subject. So instead, try keeping an eye out for softer lighting. If you're shooting outdoors, try waiting until golden hour, or you can keep an eye out for shady areas. And if you're shooting indoors, you can find a nice big window to go up next to for decent lighting, or you can invest in higher quality continuous video lights to give your content an upgraded feel. Moving on to tip number 4, mind your audio. Great audio can really elevate the quality of your videos. Now, in an ideal world, you're using something like an external microphone like the one that I'm using here, but if you're on a budget and you're using something like an iPhone, what you can do is bring that iPhone closer to you, so that way there's less echo, less room noise, and you have a better chance of getting clear, crisp audio. There's also the option to edit your audio in post-production, but I personally love capturing things right in camera the first time when I shoot it, so that way there's less work for me afterwards and I can just move on with the creative process. Tip number 5 is to edit like a pro. Once you've captured all your content, it's time to throw it all together in post-production and create a seamless flow of one video to the next. When it comes to how to edit your videos and what softwares to use, you have a few options. I personally use Adobe Premiere Pro. An alternative to that is a free version, is going to be DaVinci Resolve, which I personally haven't had the time to dive into, but I've heard great things from their users. And if you're just shooting content on your iPhone and you want to keep things mobile, you have a few options for that as well. On the higher end of things, you have Adobe Premiere Rush. There's also CapCut, which is what I personally use to throw a few clips together for short form content. And there's classic iMovie, which I haven't used in a while. I don't know if that's still a thing, but those are some options for you. Once you have your editing software picked out, then you can start experimenting and adding your own style by utilizing transitions, utilizing color grading, and incorporating sound effects. Don't be afraid to experiment in this phase to really figure out what your style is and what can bring that video together. And lastly, tip number 6, last one that I have for you guys, is going to be learning, experimenting, and having fun with your content. And that's all I got for you. So hopefully you can utilize those tips and your next video will be better than your last. And hey, if you're passionate about unleashing your creative potential, let me tell you something. Feel free to subscribe to this YouTube channel because I share practical tips and techniques. There's a little bit of something for everybody here, so feel free to like and subscribe. With that being said, I'll see you in the next one.